this matchup was the very first series that I cast when I joined the LPL in spring as well. So for me, there's a little bit of history there. So I'm happy to be catching up with these two teams again.
All right, well, I'll make sure to prod and poke on the differences of the series between that last one, because I have absolutely no memory of this matchup in spring whatsoever. These are our picks and bans. We're ready to jump into game. Kindred going to be played here by LGD, as we are behind the live broadcast. We started in Suzhou. This one's in Shanghai, so they did begin while we were in game number 3 of our previous series. So we should be able to jump into the game, and we'll do our best to minimize our breaks and try and catch up to the live broadcast as much as possible. But yeah, so Nymaera, what are your expectations coming into this one? Because I feel like Rare Atom, on paper, should probably look like the favorite.
They should do, particularly because in their recent series, Rare Atom, despite the fact that, again, they are one of these teams which hasn't really found their stride completely compared to our top teams in the LPL especially, they're very much a mid to bottom table team as it stands. They have shown a real ability to play around the 20-minute mark. I've called it kind of like the LPL Shakespeare play, because you hit Act 2 when Baron spawns. And Rare Atom, they know the script word for word by this point. So watch out, as soon as that big objective spawns, they look for a single kill on the jungler, on the AD carry, for a big fight in the mid lane or across the map. Snowball that into that objective, and LGD cannot afford to be caught napping around that point in the game. Yeah.
And shout out to Shakespeare as well, who is the first female pro in LJL, and maybe the first pro in Worlds Qualifying League, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong there.
No, so I believe CB LOL had that first recently, and of course there was also Remelia as well in the LCS as well, years ago.
But
still,
regardless,
joining a very important list of players. Yeah, Shakespeare, playing for Fennel over in the LGL, had the fortune to speak to a couple of those players before, so wish them luck in their game over there. But here, though, we had a level 1 very early on. Didn't really get to catch what happened there. Looks like it was just fighting for brush control.
Yeah, bit of a scrap to try and control those rushes, maybe looking for a bit of cheese, but both teams looking for the exact same cheese. In the meantime, though, a ward was placed, I'm assuming by Xiaoxu here. It's going to spot out Meteor's pathing to start things off. So Meteor on that Kindred will be spotted. And I would say Kindred, probably the most important jungler to have vision on early on.
Absolutely. Kindred has a lot of early damage, especially with press the attack as well. Incredibly strong. We're also seeing Kindred try some different builds. There's a little bit of Triforce Kindred floating around. It's going to be a bit more Bruiser-like. You go towards Storm Razor and Gale Force as well. Double AD carry compositions, which LGD are they're no strangers to. They like playing that kind of composition as well. Meteor has a lot of different champions he can bring to bear. Making sure that Kindred stops rolling, very important for Rare Atom to take into account.
Yeah, and also just denying as many stacks as possible, trying to play around where those Kindred stacks end up spawning. I'm looking at Assum and Feather, though. Been impressing me so far this split. Feather stepping forwards as Leyan enters the lane. JinJiao forced to flash, but look at that! The stun comes through anyway! And first blood for Assum! Fantastic start, especially on Lucian Nami.
Big moment there for Rare Atom's bot side of the map. Leyan as well, getting involved early. He's changed his role for Rare Atom as a team multiple times through this year. He was the facilitator, the Vi bot, the engage bot. He's gone back to a bit more individual agency, getting onto the board early with something like that. Viego, very important for the team.
Certainly is, and now, look at this wave. It's a nightmare for Envyy. As Assum and Feather will be able to mostly zone away, but with JinJiao coming back into the lane, they don't want to overstep. But you could essentially freeze that for a long time. But let's take another look as Leyan just charges into the lane.
He does, and this is, it's the early flash.
Betrayal.
But it's like the, oh wait, I thought I didn't have to dodge that. You in fact did have to dodge that. And of course, the reason they can do this is because they knew where Meteor was likely to be. That early vision very much helps Xiaoxu's ward early on, spotting out the first couple of camps, gives them enough information to make an informed play. Back onto the map though. You do have some camps taken up by it. That's a lot of damage there.
Okay, he's going to get under the tower, I'm assuming, because the observers have moved away. Haichao does get Charm in the mid lane, and Strive forced to flash. So nice bit of play coming out from LGD. A summoner burnt in the mid lane. Kind of necessary, because both side lanes are looking scary for LGD right now.
Yeah. Meteor has himself his first mark. He would have picked that up from one of those scuttles. Leyan is currently marked. Doesn't have to walk into him too dangerously. He has himself the flash still. It'll be difficult for Meteor to finish himself off a proper kill at this point, but still, watch those kindred stacks. Does buff up pretty much your entire kit for each one you get, and then the marks 4 and 7, they give you the range increases. That's when you really start popping off.
Yeah, the level 4, stack number 4 is kind of the most important breaking point for Kindred. Before 4 stacks, it can be really hard to function in those team fights. That first range increase, so crucial to how the champion is going to function later on into the game. So keep your eyes peeled for those stacks, and we'll try and keep a handle on that for you guys at home as well. But so far, so good for RA, building a bit of a lead off the back of that first blood. Bit of a CS lead in that bottom lane is a huge stack building up. I'm curious if they try and go for any under-tower shenanigans here. Leyan could certainly move towards that bottom side.
He's moving down towards there. Meteor, I don't know whether he's been spotted by a ward recently. There were some blue pings, I think, onto his Krug, so I think they have at least assumed information of where Meteor is, clearing from top to bottom. They know that was his route. The camps will be respawning in that order as well. Leyan has a moment of time to get into the enemy jungle, maybe put down a deep ward himself, or as you said, maybe even look for a dive under this turret. He's positioning for it, and instead, peeling back, going towards the dragon, potentially.
Yeah, I don't mind either play, but you've got to commit to one of them. Leyan seems to be undecided on which way he wants to go. Just drops a ward, won't go for that Drake in the end, and moves back down towards that bottom lane. I feel like that was a window for Leyan there that sort of hasn't taken.
The wave wasn't big enough, and there's a barrier still on Envyy to make things a little bit awkward. The fighting now, though, he has flash. What can he do with it?
Envyy kind of enjoying that trade, honestly. Just able to get big damage out onto both of RA's bottom lane. The serrated Dirk there as Tibbers comes down in the mid lane. I feel like, at this point, Tibbers used to be the most exciting ability of the game. Yeah. And at this point, it's lost all excitement because everyone just slams it to find priority.
And also to just, you know, Talon used to do this as well when he had first strike. It's just there to give you like an extra 100 gold when you take 80% of someone's HP. No, you're not going to 100 to 0 someone, but it's nice cash in pocket.
Certainly is. I feel like I'm always surprised that we don't see more trading first back and forth in the mid lane to set up for a Tibbers all-in. I feel like Flash Tibbers is so powerful if you do use it. JinJiao takes a chunk, but Assum in trouble. Envyy just charging forwards with the red and white guns, but he doesn't have flash. He can't quite finish the kills, and Feather walks away as well. But here's Meteor.
Here, he has flash.
This is a jungler that ain't afraid to dive. The wave still needs to be pushed in. Assum, I don't think he can clear this one. Not level 6 for the culling. And here we go. Dive underway. RA's reinforcements are headed over, but JinJiao and Envyy are both going to get taken so low. Meteor does get 2 kills, but there's 2 deaths as well. And suddenly N cleans it up for 3. A double for Assum. It couldn't have gone worse.
Well, I don't envy them. That is a hell of a mistake to make. I think Meteor maybe could have just flashed over the wall, got into that kill very quickly, rather than waiting for the cooldowns to come back up. Feather and Assum outplay the dive.
Xiaoxu being denied his exit by fearness here, because Haichao moves up towards that top lane, but a nice little buffer denies the charm. It's not going to be enough, or is it? Pulls it back, but it doesn't commit to the play onto fearness. Oh, so close. A valiant attempt from Xiaoxu to survive, but fearness on a blade's edge survives the play.
So both sides of the rare atom map very nearly outplay 1vx scenarios, outnumbered. Can't quite do it in the top lane, though it gets damn close. Haichao gonna go back to base with that 1 kill and buy himself those Mercury's treads. Going back to the replay of how this happened though. Envyy, of course, came in from Leaf Sandbox, coming in from Spring to Summer. Player of some renown over in the LCK. Nizafelos is no slouch either, but right here, I just feel like Meteor could have just flashed that wall, even without the minions in place. Just wait, not wait for the next cooldowns to come up. Huge play by Feather. Huge play. Great bubble. And Meteor, I feel like he just had to commit to that play with or without those minions before those cooldowns came back up.
Fantastic stuff, though, from Assum and Feather. Beautifully played to deny everything. The bubble, the ignite onto the support. Xiaoxu, so close to getting fearness. I don't know if his E was currently on cooldown when he was when he got the knockback onto fearness, but either way. A good attempt, a good attempt. Good answer, though, from Haichao to try and punish that one. Meteor and Haichao ahead on one side, Assum massively ahead on the other. And this is the kind of early game that I live for, Nymaera. We actually see both teams with win conditions online. We'll not talk about that Moonlight Vigil, as both teams with win conditions, golden touching distance. First Dragon now for LGD.
And I feel like there's a little bit of a difference between the Infernos we saw and how well they were doing in that first series compared to, sadly, what we've seen in the first 10 minutes of this one. Envyy very nearly outplaying that just before that dive, but feels like in his own head a little bit now at this point. Failed dive, failed ultimate there.
Yeah. Little unfortunate. It happens. It happens. It happens. I was going to say to the best of us, but it sort of doesn't happen to Gala and LWX based on this series of the day. And they are the best of us. Apparently, fearness knocked under the tower. That's a gorgeous combo from Xiaoxu. Oh, but the cast denies it. But man, the mechanics on this player.
I think Xiaoxu maybe could have flashed to get the other side of that cask, but just says, okay, I'll take the ult, take the flash for free. Have another run at it sometime else. fearness just about lived in that first 2v1 against Xiaoxu. Xiaoxu, despite dying that first time, looking for more attempts.
I'm not sure he's missed a Q3 this game, honestly. Managing to be so consistent. The damage on the charts right now will be very Xiaoxu favored. Leyan gonna face check into the brush here, but dashes behind Strive, and Strive gets caught by the charm instead. Tibbers has to be thrown out just to deny the play from LGD. That's twice this game that we've seen someone flash CC and it hits someone else instead.
You know what that is? So I'm a big fan of rugby union. It's the sport which I watched the most growing up. And there was something known as a hospital pass, where you throw the ball to someone who stood in front of the biggest player on the enemy team, and they run into them. There's the pass to the hospital. That is the equivalent in League of Legends of the same thing. I'm getting out of the way of this dude. You can take the CC. Let me know when you get back out of the A&E ward.
Yeah, I'll be there in a taxi to pick you up, because it's the least you can do at that point. Now Herald going to come down, as Assum has been building this lead up, getting very close to that Stormraiser alongside the serrated Dirk. In fact, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he builds. Is that Stormraiser? Is that Gale Force? The AD carry builds. Yeah. They just won't stick in my head.
The Zeal is the bit which confuses me now. I know that there's a lot of BF swords and a lot of items. I used to be able to tell from that. Either way, the Dirk.
I think it's Stormraiser.
I'm gonna just hope that it's Stormraiser and hope for the best, because I don't have the items opened up besides me right now. That was the ults coming out though. Envyy caught out again.
Envyy gonna go down. Cullen comes out. Beautifully played by Assum and Feather. And we'll be able to take him down. So good stuff there. And now Xiaoxu has fearness on the ropes once again, but Meteor is in the area this time. Xiaoxu's got to be careful. He's still going aggressive. He's been baited in. fearness being fearless in this one, just like he wanted his username to be. Xiaoxu should go down the all-out to try and buy himself space, but the cast, no! Ooh. Denied by the dash, and the flash still up from the previous play. Xiaoxu survives.
You'll remember this as the day you almost caught Captain Jack Xiaoxu. Walks away from a 1v2 and actually survives this time. He's been having a good time individually, despite not walking away with kills and those individual, I suppose, gold advantages. The fact that he's not dying is still important. Meteor will get himself another mark for Xiaoxu has kind of like forced retreat though. Not been able to get a mark off of champions, but Meteor still getting some on the board.
Yeah, it is Gale Force, by the way, to follow up on the previous conversation. I thought it was Gale Force, and then I second-guessed myself because it was...
And then you said it, and I was like, I'm just going to believe you, Joe.
My brain went, okay, there's no Noon Quiver, so it can't be Mythic, because that's how it used to work.
Yes.
And they've ruined everything. Like, as an AD carry player, I have to double-check everything I build now, because they changed absolutely everything.
But we basically had a second preseason in the middle of the split. And I was on holiday, I came back, and I was like, I need to memorize new items all over again. Still a work in progress. Xiaoxu does the real deal, though, of escaping from another perilous situation.
Like, last second W on the cask there. So Xiaoxu is looking clean with it this game. Yes, he's 0-1-0, but mechanically speaking on that Cassante, he is looking real good.
Isn't Cassante a champion which has really been in the community eye for a little while now? A lot of players very practiced at this champion, particularly in the LPL. This champion, it feels like if you're skilled at this champion, you can do just about anything with him.
Xiaoxu under threat again as Meteor moves up to this top side. This is the most top side focus I've seen from a jungler. Maybe all split, honestly. I feel like Meteor is constantly hovering this lane. Considering he has a tank Gragas in that lane, I guess you are the carry as the Kindred. So looking to try and grab that for himself.
Hang on.
5 stats.
That's 5 marks. How's he got that many without us checking? He has 5 marks.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess he's just been farming up in Leyan's jungle. I mean, he is 16 CS up in the jungle. As Drake will be taken here.
I think we found out the reason why he's been hovering towards that top side. He's been able to get camps because fearness has been at least pushing in towards Xiaoxu. He's walking towards again, using that power so well.
Ooh, damage out from Meteor is huge onto Feather as the rest of the team charges in, but they can't actually get the kills. Oh, good charm. There's Tibbers. Is buying so much space for the squad, by the way. Tibbers like 1v4ing that fight. As fearness takes a bit of a chunk from Leyan. I can't believe RA just walked away without anyone going down.
The really MVP of the Merc Threads in Meteor's inventory. The tenacity and the extra magic resist stops Meteor from getting absolutely exploded. Means the ultimate can come through. It does mean, however, that they're still falling back and the Herald is still in the sights of Rare Atom. Meteor has healed up off the Krugs. Might be able to fight again, though.
fearness steps forward, does have his cask available, but that is the only ultimate available on the side of LGD. With Xiaoxu and Leyan both with theirs. Going to go for a 50-50 on the Herald, it seems. We'll see who's going to get it. It's RA. Can they pick up the eye is the question. It's now LGD muscling forwards, forcing Leyan's ult with that cask that we mentioned before. They may not get the Herald themselves, that they will deny it from RA.
The eye is going to blink itself shut and out of existence. Rare Atom at least deny LGD taking that. And I think that's very important because right now, no turrets have fallen across the map. We have seen Meteor really try and get into the enemy jungle and try and get into Xiaoxu's lane as well. Giving this Kindred more access to camps and more access to just bully out one side of the map is very, very dangerous. Large amounts of members going towards the top lane turret.
Xiaoxu's in trouble here. Does have his all-out available to try and pull someone away, but just going to step forward to try and start this fight. Leyan and Feather were on their way over to Assum, returning to that mid lane. He knows Envyy wants to finish that tower off, and not sure he can contest with JinJiao there as well. We'll just have to concede the tower. And in the meantime, Haichao pushing in that top side as well. TP having to be channeled by Xiaoxu just to keep these tier 1s alive.
I think it is very important to keep the holders as many turrets as you can, particularly when you have so much gold waiting in them. Feels like, you know, we're not to the point where Baron is available just yet. You're really gearing up for that point in the game, but not giving undue access into your jungle because your towers are down is the next thing on the plate for both these teams to be aware of.
As the wave's just going to be cleared out. The tier 1 in the bottom side, so close to going down, but Stripe couldn't quite finish it. Giving a lot of respect to fearness, knows Meteor could be in the area as well, so doesn't overstep for that tower. Stripe's being popped by fearness, he'll spot Leyan. But with Leyan moving over, they should be able to guarantee this tower. Rocket Pelt to try and find a Tibbers angle, but doesn't blow it onto fearness for no reason. Envyy is one shot, but no, the Wild Growth comes on out. Still goes down. The culling to finish it off. Meteor flashes forward to punish the play, and Feather will fall too. No! Meteor, he thought he had the damage, but the heal comes through at the last second, and now Xiaoxu on the opposite side of the play. Meteor has to use his ult. A beautiful bubble from Feather, but fearness there to punish the play. Meteor will fall. JinJiao on the top side. Fearness on the bottom side. It's absolute carnage in the mid lane.
And I think both these teams are probably be very thankful at this point that this fight didn't happen 2 minutes later, because Baron would have been alive and it would have thrown things into a real loop in this game. Haichao trying to stop some recalls, trying to scout out where Leyan and Strive were at that point in time, stops that recalls to both of them. And we are left with a bit of a weird even trade. And we're just going to reset. Board's even again.
I will say, Nymaera, we've been treated today. A lot of this split has been very one-sided games. Like, we're not seeing that many really close games. Today, we have had tons of close early games.
We have, and I think we've been we've kind of been taking the Lucian Nami for granted as well. What that combo allows you to do is to have these very bursty one-item trades, and when you have both of these bot lane combos which can do that, it means you have these very intricate mid lane fights when you're fighting over these waves. As you can see in this play here, Meteor strong enough to delay the fight, but not strong enough to win in a 1v2 beyond that point. It's enough to at least allow fearness to get another kill in the back end.
It certainly was. And I did just want to quickly mention the CS lead that I'm seeing develop on our scoreboard. And that's Haichao over Strive here. 30 CS up in the mid lane. And granted, a lot of that has not been in the mid lane recently, but still impressive to find himself with such a big CS lead, especially in a matchup where you'd anticipate Annie having the advantage, at least during the early laning phase. Assum, that was bold. That was very bold, but the Gale Force out to keep himself safe.
Yeah, but now he's at half HP, at least going to get some healing from Feather besides him. LGD, they clear out the mid wave. Dragon is alive. They will be into River to contest, and Haichao is on the flank, has flash, has ult, has a chance to make a pick.
Oh, knock back onto fearness here. They're going for it. Strive gets the Tibbers down. It's onto JinJiao. They should be able to finish one kill at least. Haichao onto the rest of the squad here. Feather low. Everyone taken out. The combo is there. Xiaoxu and Leyan in a 2v4. The all-out buys them one kill. Can they escape with more? Xiaoxu up on the top side as Leyan goes downwards. Dragon was taken, but at what cost? 4 for 2.
Another mark at the end for Meteor, up to 6. That'll be the cherry on top of the multiple kills picked up. They don't get the Dragon. It's a little sad for them, but the kills, the gold, the mark, the tower on the bot side, LGD take up all of the other objectives and the other advantages they can find from that fight.
Fantastic from LGD. What a combo from the 3 players as well. Haichao starts it off, but Meteor and fearness diving on board as JinJiao and Envyy are kind of just left to fend for themselves on the backside of the play.
Strive very nearly gets himself a multi-man Tibbers, and particularly with the tidal wave coming over, if he just managed to stun them into the tidal wave, you can see how much space that would have bought the likes of Assum to do the damage which he couldn't quite manage because he was shut down by LGD, who weren't locked up at that point. Resets come through, damage is there. You have a second AD carry, luckily, in the Kindred to keep up your DPS numbers, despite the fact that Envyy did go down at the start of that fight. As we saw that, at least picks up the mark at the end of it too.
So, fantastic position to be in for LGD. The gold lead isn't that dramatic, it's 1,021 minutes, but the way that they are positioned on the map now off the back of that fight, the vision control. Look at the wards both around Baron, but also in the bottom half of the map. They still have a few wards towards that Drake. They have control right now as Meteor waiting for someone to check for that wave. It's not going to happen. There's RA grouped up, fighting for some semblance of control in their own jungle.
Meteor has the mark on Leyan. Of course, in any situation now, we're entered into the second act of this play. It's past 20 minutes. You cannot afford to give up a loss at this point in the game.
Kind of a weird culling from Assum there. It's going to be on cooldown for the next fight, which I think people kind of underestimate the value of a culling in the team fight, because as Lucian, you kind of want to go in, do your initial burst, but then when they use all of their escape tools, the culling is like the follow-up. The culling is it's like Caitlyn's ace in the hole almost, the way that it's used in a lot of fights, where it's like, okay, you got away, but did you really get away? And when the threat comes towards you, you can use it to stay out of range. When it's just being blasted out like this, it's really going to achieve too much. Couldn't get the damage to connect.
When you have first strike, it's great when you actually get that angle, but you can't just throw it out for free, particularly when you don't have press the attack, when you're actually not a very high attack speed build as well, or you're trying to look to really get the burst out. You need to choose your angle very well. Like you're saying, you can't just throw it out for free. It has a lot of different uses. When you don't have that, particularly with the first strike build, you feel pretty poor about things. As it stands, Rare Adam, maybe they thought they could force a fight around the timing of the game where they found so many successes in this split so far. Can't make it quite work though. LGD walk away with mid lane control once more, with vision control once more, and with the Baron spawned, Assum can't really leave that area of the map blank and unattended.
So Baron up, but the team confident to just brute force that. Meteor, we've got to keep our eyes on as he's on those 6 stacks. Number 7 is huge. Strive trying to find his way towards the enemy team. Not sure what we were looking at on the minimap there, because we're kind of A-ramming.
Your guess is as good as mine, dude.
You know what? We've got zoom-ins in the LPL. We've never had that before. So you know what? I'll take it as a win. Even if we didn't gain anything from the zoom-in, we saw that Haichao was in the top lane.
I'm going to take it as a cinematic experience.
Exactly.
We'll revisit it later.
Let's get some T-tours to the chat for our new camera work. Magnificent. LEC's had it for, what, 4 years at this point? But
long enough. Time to spread it to here too.
I'm here for it. When do we get the gold difference overlay? That's what I want.
Oh, I have to say, and I have to say,
player gold.
The player gold difference thing, I find myself really missing it as well because it illustrates so many points. Because for me, gold difference when you look at the top of the screen means very little to me as an analyst because I sit there and I'm like, I don't care if Gragas has like 2,000 less gold than someone else even. You know, he's still going to do Gragas things. It's important when you have an Aphelios who's 2,000 gold up or however much gold up, and particularly in this case, looking at Meteor as well with that many items, you can even compare him to Envyy at that point. And you have to say, even with the even-ish gold between the two teams, the carries on LGD are in such a better place right now.
Certainly are. Haichao not doing too shabby himself either. Does have the Dark Seal. Oh, he's on a ward. He doesn't know. He likes critical information. The Tibbers is there. And I'm going to be honest, that is the most blatant caster curse I've done in a long time. Literally, the second I complimented him, he stands on a ward and gets wrecked.
You may file all complaints to Munchables email here. Meteor drashing forward, trying to use that Dance Virus to get something done. Gets a little bit of damage in return. Trying to at least hold Rare Assum into this mid lane so they can't use their numbers advantage they bought.
Xiaoxu going to stand in the mid lane as the Drake is taken. That's going to be pretty tasty for RA. That pick is huge because it puts him on Soul Point, which Xiaoxu with his All Out and then a Chemtech Soul, I mean, he's going to be unstoppable, isn't he? He's going to be completely invincible. Monstrous in those fights. What? LGD, man, buy a sweeper. Like,
they have two, you literally have two ready for them right now. They almost walked into that brush with the sweeper. They did everything else but that brush. I think maybe they thought that they had just about caught it. They didn't though, but they are going to go straight onto this Baron. And with the resets from Assum and Feather, they're not going to be there in time.
How do RA not even suspect this is happening?
They
had full information. They watched everyone walk from that ward towards Baron. What did they think was happening? What is happening in this game, Nymaera?
Anything outside, it is object permanence, Munchables. If you don't see it directly on your screen, it doesn't exist. Just like when a turtle shoves its head into a coral reef and thinks that it turns invisible. Yes, they actually do that. Rare Adam, they just don't see LGD walk towards that Baron. They know that there are 280 carries on the other side, though. LGD, they get the first Baron of the game, very importantly so, and big moment from LGD.
Yeah, LGD. I mean, that's just daylight robbery, isn't it? There's no other way to say it. They just waltzed in and took the Baron with absolutely no sign of life from RA in response. It's a 1,000 gold lead now for LGD. We'll see what they can do with the Baron. And they've got a Kindred that's just slowly but surely stacking up as well. That might have been the 7th stack. Quite often you do get a stack off a Baron. I'll have to have a look next time it's on the overlay. Yeah, I wasn't looking at the minimap on whether there was a stack. I don't think the LEC overlay does that. No, it's on 6. He's on 6.
We were baited. Well, see if we can get a kill onto Leyan. Hasn't died this game yet, of course. The one person who is deathless on Rare Assum itself. Going to join up as a 4-man unit in this bot side. Teleport available from fearness. Teleport coming in from RA, though.
That's Gale Force from Envyy, but at what cost? Xiaoxu trades his life for it. Although will walk away. Strive behind enemy lines, but the Wild Growth keeps him alive. And suddenly Strive finds himself alone in the world, will be taken out. Doesn't even have any mana. I'm pretty sure he just TP'd. How does he have no mana? LGD,
I don't know.
Yeah, he must have TP'd with like... He must have just gone from somewhere else on the map. I don't know. Either way, LGD find themselves a single pick onto Strive and then break the game open. We've seen this story before. LGD will get the bottom in him. And I would say just keep looking for more, keep on fighting at this point, because RA looking all kinds discombobulated this game.
LGD, they might be 0-4 in series, but again, you can see the quality which they can show, particularly in the first game of series. They come in with good plans, they're coming in with a fight here.
Leyan just about gets away with his life. Meteor survives as well. They will have to back away. RA, that soul point that's coming up in 2 minutes, that's going to be their last semblance of an attempt in this game because it is falling apart thick and fast.
Xiaoxu clearing up this wave in this bot side, but again, it feels even worse when you commit a teleport to this scenario and you don't get the win. Strive doesn't even teleport in with his stun loaded. He has to use half of his damage and half of his abilities, getting just stun ready. He throws a Q at JinJiao just to get the Tibbers primed and ready for the stun. Really not the right timing, very imprecise, and sadly for him, puts RA even to an even worse position.
And we've all been in that situation in games, like especially like Clash or whatever. Your mate is calling for a play, and you're just not ready for it, but you just got to commit. You've got to try and make it happen. And try he did, but did not work out. Like you say, used half of his kit just to get that stun ready. So the Tibbers does stun, but I mean, that's all the damage he had in the tank. And so 10-10 on the scoreboard. The gold is still reasonably even, honestly. It's about 3,000 in favor of LGD, but I don't know. For RA, my question is not really about like the specifics of this game. It's the bigger picture stuff, like the fact that they didn't even know the Baron was being started after having vision. The fact that Strive kind of getting caught out a couple of times. There's some big questions for RA that they're going to have to answer. And LGD showing us the team that took a game off of JDG.
Game one of these series, LGD, it feels like they're prepped. Very good for the first series. They've run out of gas in the tank a couple of times, though. That's why they haven't really been able to walk away with series victories. They get one game, but they can't see it off. In this game, though, you're right. Talking about that gold advantage again, the carries are really in a safe position from LGD. You have double AD carries. They're very fed at this point. Meteor and Envyy, they have more than enough damage to stand up and take down whoever runs at them. They're going to go back towards this dragon, deny the soul from Rare Atom. You have to think and Strive, being on the other side of the map, other side of mid lane, even with his flash and his ultimate, won't be able to impact this fight now.
Love the Serpent's Fang we're seeing from Assum. Obviously, a lot of shielding coming out from that Lulu. And not to mention from like Envyy, if he has the overheal locked in, he'll be able to get a bit of shielding himself. You can anticipate maybe a Bloodthirster coming through later. Although, actually, no, they removed the shield from Bloodthirster, right?
They did, yes.
So that's not a thing anymore. Not the biggest value Serpent's Fang, but Haichao finds a charm onto Feather in the mid lane. He's going to have to flash and will go down anyway. A cask on top of his head. Feather really overstepping that one. And RA, they're on the top side of the map running for their lives. But in the meantime, Envyy can just run down the mid lane. He can just take towers.
He can. He's safe on his own at that point. Trying to stop the recalls. Meteor has flash.
Yeah,
doesn't need it.
Dead. Assum's down. Meteor just Gale Force to finish the job. Tibbers comes in. Wild Growth is there. Doesn't even have to use the Lamb's Respite. And this is looking about as over as they come, Nymaera.
Out it is. Uses that extra damage from the Gale Force. Takes down the enemy AD carry. 3 members dead now of Rare Atom. No one to defend the space. Their wave clear is gone. And despite the fact that Leyan has not died this game, denying the mark, at least from Meteor, he's not been able to impact it either. LGD, game 1, looking strong.
Looking fantastic here. Guess they'll get one final fight to finish the job off. Moonlight Vigil comes on in as he dives forward with Gale Force. Beautiful little combo. And Haichao finishes the job with a double kill. LGD showing up strong today. It's Haichao sacrificing his life for the triple kill to finish the game out there. And LGD, again, they beat JDG in game number 1. They took a game off of JDG, MSI champions. And now looking dominant, it has to be said, against RA.
Rare Atom, you know, they've not looked like slouches in their recent series either. I mean, this is a team which, again, we've talked about them being quite competent at knowing their power spikes in the mid-game, knowing how to force a fight at a very important points in the game to get themselves a Baron and then roll that into a victory. They couldn't do that here. They've overforced a bit in that mid lane, particularly Assum. I think has to walk away from that game feeling not great, given the amount of kills that he had, the amount of gold he had, and the amount of responsibility he had to his team. He couldn't see that out into enough teamfight advantages to walk away with victory.
Nope, certainly couldn't. And a tough one, I think it's fair to say, coming out for RA. And, you know, RA is a roster that I was excited for at the start of the year. Like, when we saw this roster on paper, they picked up Mole, they picked up Baolan. I was like, okay, this is a team that's going to go in. They've played Mole a tiny bit, but not really stuck with that one. Gone back to Strive. And Feather actually has been quite impressive. I'm very okay with them playing Feather over Baolan right now, because Feather, I feel like, has been playing decently well. But in general, I feel like the first bit is good, but you can see it on the goal graph. The second they hit the 20-minute mark, everything just fell apart entirely. It feels like they turned off their mics, you know? It feels like they're not even communicating at all.
Which is crazy, considering what we were just praising them for is, hey, you know that thing they do really well. They hang in there in the early game and they turn it on when the Baron spawns. It feels like they overforced this time, and all of the advantages they would normally have turned into losses instead. LGD were just much better in the key fights around the mid-game.
32-2-2 is the time as they finish that one off. And I will say, impressive A bit of laning coming out from Assum and Feather. Really nice start with Leyan making a play towards that bottom lane. And then Meteor, Envyy, and JinJiao trying to dive onto Assum and Feather was disastrous. That part of the game looked really good for RA. I have to say the early game was impressive from them, punishing those mistakes. However, just once it got to that mid-game, it all sort of fell apart. And I have to say LGD as well, very impressive stuff. I'm keen for more of this coming out from them. And I think we'll be able to just keep on rolling forwards here as Haichao going to be player of the game. And I think we're going to go without a break here. We're going to roll straight into game number 2. We are behind schedule because we started in Suzhou. So we are going to forego our break and power forwards with the LPL.
We can. So Haichao showing us another Premier Ahri experience. LPL Ahris, they're good players. And we've seen the likes of Rookie and Knight have some wonderful games on this champion recently as well. In both different aspects of the champion, she is this blend of setup,